On this episode of Into the Unknown, I am joined with a very special guest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jeremy. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely amazing. So I just want to, jump off right off the bat. How do we know each other and who are you?
Well, my name's Marianna Whitehurst, and we know each other through college football, which which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest connectors that this country has. But also, we know each other from college football in the capital of college football, as Gary Stoken likes to say, Atlanta, Georgia, because I'm on the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl board as an advisory member. So I get to go around and be an ambassador for college football. And you were the curator for the College Football Hall of Fame when we met.
Man, I completely I appreciate it, and it's crazy that it's been a year since I've been at the Hall of Fame, but those 4 years down there was great. I got to meet so many incredible people, and I would definitely say yes, the capital of college football, down there in Atlanta.
It's tough to argue his point, right? I mean, this is the home of Bobby Dodd. This is the home of Heisman. Incidentally, we are less than 30 days from kickoff, and my daughter and I got a new pet. It's a bunny that we named Bunny Dodd.
Man, I love that. I love that. It's funny how much college football and sports in general. For those watching, they can see behind me. It's a little mini museum in my background.
I'm very envious of your accumulation back there.
I like to say it's a collection. It makes me feel a little better and a little less of a hoarder situation. But I find things and I get them and I like them. So it is what it is at this point. I will
You
say.
know what? A lot of people do not realize that our College Football Hall of Fame was actually begun by essentially a hoarder. So I think you're good.
I
I
love
feel
it.
like you're good. I feel like you're good.
Jumping into this, what's your origin story? Where are you from?
So I'm originally from Tennessee. My dad's family is from here in Atlanta. Actually, my dad was born at Crawford Long Hospital and moved to Perry, Georgia when he was about 6, and he grew up there. And he went to Georgia Tech. So I mentioned Bunny Dodd. My family has we have a very strong tie to Georgia Tech. My dad went there, and my maternal grandfather went there. My maternal grandfather was actually orphaned when he was about 12 years old, and he was one of those orphans with funds. So he was sent away to boarding school, and then when he went to college, he actually wound up at Georgia Tech. And much like now, over holidays, foreign students, students like my grandfather who were orphans, and student athletes were who was left on campus at the holidays. So he was an avid Georgia Tech football and basketball fan, and he always felt like that was sort of his family until he married my grandmother. And when he passed away, um, he had remarried, and his final wishes to be cremated and have part of his ashes secretly scattered on Tech's campus in Grant Field were not honored, which really bothered my brothers and me. So when we sold our family business, we had a little family meeting about endowing some scholarships down at Georgia Tech. And we were very happy to do that. Actually, my brothers and I were really happy to give up that not insignificant portion of our potential inheritance to honor our grandfather's last wishes in so many ways, because he did love Georgia Tech football more than anything in the world, and he loved Georgia Tech basketball probably about second as much. So it's been a really neat. 15 years ago we did that. It's been a really neat 15 years. We've gotten to know a lot of our student athletes, and I've mentored some of them and been really happy to encourage them and just kind of be their behind the scenes cheerleader and advisor, and just share some information that I know from kind of behind the scenes. My Uncle David played in the NFL, so and I manage a law firm, so frequently I would say, let's dig down on this particular representative and what they're telling you. If I happen to know something that was maybe a little worthwhile to know nugget. I've been pretty pretty fortunate the last few years. I've got a couple of guys that I was their encourager and advisor behind the scenes who are going to be probable college football hall nominees, and I got to nominate them for the Georgia Sports Hall. So that's been lots of fun lately. I really enjoyed that.
Mariana, I love that. And for people who haven't been to Georgia Tech or the campus, I love where it's located in Atlanta. I lived in walking distance, so a lot of times on my runs and sometimes walks because I didn't feel like running the whole time. I loved walking down, Tech's campus and around it, and it's just a really cool part. It was I cut through there every day to drive to work, and always loved kind of the atmosphere that Tech had to offer.
People forget, that it's Georgia Tech is actually it's a historic football school, so we hope to see that come back, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I love one of my passions is historic stadiums. I wrote my master's thesis on college football stadiums in the 1920s,
I did
looking
remember that.
yeah, looking at the memorial stadiums at Illinois, Indiana, and Minnesota, and just learning the history.
For me to be a Tennessee native and like a Georgia Tech fan all of my life, I suffer well, I've been through some things with my fan base. But just for example, to see Tennessee come back the way that they did against a storied Alabama program. I mean, Alabama is a powerhouse. To see Tennessee come back last fall the way that it did against Alabama, and to see the goalposts come down, and just the pride in the University of Tennessee again, I actually cried. Because I truly did not think I would live to see my home state show up again the way that they used to with football. And it was really great. It was a really great thing to see. Fortunately for me, the Peach Bowl has expanded my my fan base. So I get to go visit lots of other schools now. And I've gotten to, like, my Tennessee people would hate to hear this, but I so fell in love with the University of Kentucky. When I was there. And I fall in love with whoever we have that shows up for kickoffs and for our Peach Bowl.
Marianne, I love that. And one of the great honors of being at the hall was the fact that I got to be a fan of everyone, every player, every school, really. And I always made a big push with, of course, the Division I programs do get a lot of recognition just by size and fan base, but I went to a small Division III school, the University of Wisconsin Eau Claire, and I always loved to just how deep college football and how deep universities actually do run, and being able to celebrate everyone from D1 to NAIA was always something fun that I enjoyed doing and sharing.
Unless I'm wrong, you did a very, very well done exhibit for HBCUs before you left. As we say, I always pay attention to those because I've been a big advocate for the HBCUs in my work with esports on a board called Community, and also at the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. So I very much appreciate that you did that because again, people forget how absolutely deep and rich and deep, rich, wide, tall the HBCU college football tradition is as well.
Marianne, I really appreciate that. That was such a fun exhibit for us to work on. I had to laugh because a lot of the text information inside the kiosks were from papers I wrote in grad school because my background's African American history. That's what I studied in graduate school. I'm now at the Wisconsin Black Historical Society, actually, as their archivist, and it was always a connection for me that I just found super important, and having the opportunity, I believe Southern Company was our sponsor, and just being able to do an exhibit like that and then do it right, not just kind of add something on, but actually create a whole space was one of the true honors that I got to work on when I was there.
I was laughing because I very much understand that. It was a couple of years ago when I was down in Macon for the selection committee, and I was walking around looking at, people I'd nominated that had been inducted. And I was reading their kiosks and realized that, oh my God, that's my essay. So like I didn't do that. And obviously most of the people I've, like, just for example, Maya Moore and Kelly O'Hara and Mark Teixeira and Calvin Johnson are some of the people that I've nominated that have been inducted. So clearly people who deserved it and like would have been nominated by somebody. It wasn't just me. It was just that for me, it was very cool to walk by my nominee's case and realize that's my essay. So it's like it just really does something to you. I think like you feel a real sense of personal pride that I did that. Like I was part of that, which is nice. It's really nice.
Marianna, I completely agree. And once I kind of had realized that it was time, I was ready to move on from the hall, I created the last exhibit so they had something to work with while they were able to put something up during the summer. So it was fun for me because that was an exhibit I created completely from the design aspect to, because obviously I own my own company, Swick Media. We started in 2018. I do graphics, I do edits and do all that. And it was fun to continue to build and utilize those skill sets at the Hall of Fame. In everyone's life, there's a chance where you can go east, you can go west, you make a decision at a fork in the road. Can you give me an example of that in your own life?
As soon as you asked me that question before we got on camera, I knew what I was going to talk about. So when we very first became boosters, we donated the scholarships and had a long family history of giving money to Georgia Tech and also the University of Tennessee, and buying season tickets and showing up for home games. We had under our scholarships at that time, we had Jonathan Dwyer and Derek Morgan, and I managed a law firm. And that was around the time when I was doing a lot of being physically there on campus and talking with Jonathan specifically. And I got a message that there was a problem. Some people know this and some people don't, that Demarius Thomas, who we affectionately call Bebe, was under investigation by the NCAA, and Morgan Burnett was also targeted in that particular. And I had a number of people prior to that time saying, making little comments to me about, well, don't you think that this is none of your business? Well, you're a white woman. Like, don't you think that you should, mind your business? And I never really got any of that from the Dwyers. And when John let me know about the situation, I will say the NCAA was not sticking to their own regulations about an investigation, and I quickly became aware of it. And because of my ties in the legal community, was able to recommend a couple of really great attorneys to Georgia Tech. And I think I probably used the word recommend a little loosely because I feel like I'm more demanded that they use the attorneys that I recommended. I probably wouldn't be as brash now as I was then. I was younger. I was less seasoned. I probably would do it in a different way now, but I never regretted the things that I did to try to stand up for Bebe and Morgan and make sure that they were right was done by them. In that situation, it would have obviously been easier for me to walk away and not do anything and not step up. There have been a number of times when I've been the advisor and the behind the scenes cheerleader, and sometimes maybe a little too enthusiastic of a cheerleader, and people have made comments to me about my relationship with this person or that person, and I never cared. I did always feel like there was a slight racial bias to some of the comments, and those were not appreciated. And like those people were quickly culled from my life because I just I don't need that. So obviously, yes, like I could have gone east and just been very like hands off, and nobody held a gun to my head and made me do the things that I did to be part of their journey and try to make it a little easier. It definitely would have made my life easier if I had just, been the booster and smiled and waved on the field and let that be it. But I don't think that's what my grandfather would have wanted me to do. And the scholarships were named after him. So I did those things that I thought he would have wanted me to do. And I hope somewhere his energy is proud of the work we all did together. I will say there are some times when it has been truly heartbreaking. Finding out about Bebe's death on Twitter was definitely a low point for me, personally. And then also knowing that Morgan and Josh Nesbitt were hurting was really tough. And a lot of my guys, Jonathan and Derek, and the only good thing I can say about that is that we were all together at his memorial service, and it was really healing to see everybody, see the whites of everybody's eyes again, and be able to look at them and be like, okay, I know you're not okay, but you're as okay as you can be in this moment.
Always trying to find a way to advocate in whatever way you're able to is, I think, something definitely admirable.
Thank you, Jeremy. I really appreciate that. I don't remember exactly where it was I heard it, but somebody had said, wouldn't it be a wonderful world if everybody just did the things they were able to do?
Absolutely. So I want to ask you a little bit, how'd you get involved with the Peach Bowl?
So that's a funny story too. So it goes back to the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. I was at a very low point in my life, and I got this call from an unknown number. I was at St. Simon's. I had run away from Atlanta. I was hiding from everyone with a dear friend who's from Scotland and had a home in St. Simon's that he offered me so I could run away and hide from my life for a little while. So I had, in fact, fled Atlanta and like a turkey, and was hiding with just my daughter on St. Simon's. And I answered an unknown number, which I never do. And it was this very friendly voice. And he said, my name's Derek Waugh. I'm the new executive director of the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. And I hear that you are the very yellow jacket that I need to get involved at the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. I don't have enough yellow jackets. And it was like a Friday. And I was leaving the next day because Morgan Burnett was having his football camp. And I said, well, I mean, I'm at St. Simon's right now. I'm on the beach. And he said, well, I'm going to be in Atlanta on Saturday. Could you meet? And I said, no, I can't. I have plans on Saturday. I am going to be at Morgan Burnett's football camp on Saturday. And he said, well, if I come on Monday, can you have lunch? And I said, okay. So by the time that, we met for lunch, I'd looked, and the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame Authority Board and Foundations Board had really about 3 women total between those 2 boards. And he was right. No yellow jackets. So when he met me for lunch, I said, okay, so it looks to me like what you actually need is you're trying to grow your demographics in several areas. Like, I mean, obviously I'm white, but you need a woman, and you need somebody who's a Gen X on this board, and you need a yellow jacket, and you need some more people of color. So I hit 3 of the 4 of your boxes, and I'm not offended because I know I absolutely bring a lot to the table. So let's go. And then he had me immediately down for the Honors Council, and I walked into the Honors Council, and it was the same sort of thing, except for there was this one guy in there. His name's Tory Durden. So he and I looked at each other, and it was pretty much just me and him, and several boomer and older white fellas, and we were instantly bonded from that moment on. And he lives here in Atlanta. So when Tory got on the Peach Bowl board, he called me at 7:45 on a Saturday morning. And he knew I was presenting a scholarship that day. So nobody calls me on the days I'm presenting scholarships if they're friends with me, because they know better. And nobody normal calls you at 7:45 on a Saturday morning. So I assumed something was absolutely wrong with my friend. And I answered the phone and said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I got on the Peach Bowl board." And I said, "Oh my gosh, congratulations. That is amazing. I have a towel wrapped around my head. I'm trying to get ready to go to do the thing." And he says, "Well, I'm going to nominate you, because they don't have enough women on their board. And they want some more women that really passionately love and understand college football." And like, "Girl, that's you." And I said, my mouth is open. And he says, "No, no, no. I already know you don't have time to do it, but you'll make the time. I know you will. Let's do this." So that is how I wound up on the Peach Bowl board. Tori put together a nomination for me, and Gary and Mike were very gracious.
So, Marianna, in closing, title of the podcast, Into the Unknown. What are you working on? What is your version of stepping into the unknown?
I mean, right now, I really have two new goals right now. One of them is I have started a book for college athletes that's just kind of based on the things that I have found to be helpful to the guys that I've been able to help. So I would really like to finish that book and get it published. And the other thing personally is that my daughter's she's what they call an emerging artist. Like, she's actually just had her very first exhibit, been part of her very first exhibit here at the Maloff Galleries in Atlanta, and she's querying a couple of galleries, and one of them's in Portland, Oregon, and and another one's in Portland, Maine. So apparently we really like Portland's for our artwork. But she's really going for a solo exhibit, and I would love to see that happen for her. She's got some ideas about some things that she wants to do with the nominations I put together for Bebe as a legend, as he was inducted in 2023, and Morgan and Josh Nesbitt's nominations, in ways that she wants to shoot portraiture of them on Grant Field, and kind of integrate like my nominations into your design person. So she's got some ideas about how she wants to do like a black and white exhibit that would sort of be, it would be college football based, but it would be mainly Georgia Tech based, and it would be based on these amazing college football players that she grew up with, that influenced kind of her path and her informed who she became. So those are the two things that we have cooking right here in Atlanta, and maybe I'll get up to Wisconsin. You never know. I'm a big fan of the Badger Band. Chick-fil-A might send me to Wisconsin, and I'll get to see you.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it, Jeremy. Thank you for asking me.